The Conjuring 2, Last Rites. They say the dead can rest only when the proper rites are spoken. But what happens when the prayers, meant to send souls to peace, are spoken backward, twisting into something darker? I never believed such a thing could reach into my family's life, until the summer we discovered a prayer book in my grandmother's things. A book that should never have been opened. It started the week we moved into my grandmother's old house after her passing. The home was in rural Massachusetts, a creaky colonial-style place that had been in our family for generations. The locals whispered about it, but my parents always brushed it off as superstition. The house smelled faintly of incense and old wood, the kind of scent that clings to your clothes long after you leave. My younger sister, Emily, said it felt too quiet, and I couldn't blame her. Even during the day, when the sun streamed through the windows, there was something heavy in the air, as though the walls themselves were holding secrets. The first few nights passed uneventfully, just the occasional bump or creak from the settling house. But on the fourth night, I woke to a strange sound. It wasn't footsteps, but it wasn't silence either. It was whispering low, rhythmic, muffled, like someone praying in the next room. I pressed my ear to the wall, heart hammering. The voice rose and fell in cadence with the ticking of the old grandfather clock downstairs. When I told my parents the next morning, they exchanged a look but said nothing. That was the beginning. Strange things started happening almost daily. The crucifix above my grandmother's bed crashed to the floor in the middle of the night. The chain was snapped in half, not broken, but snapped clean through, as if by force. The candles in the small prayer room burned out in minutes, no matter how new the wax was. Emily swore she saw shadows that didn't belong to anything, stretching across the walls even when no one stood near. I tried to rationalize it. Old houses do weird things. But then Emily had the first encounter. She screamed one night so loudly that we all rushed to her room. She was sitting bolt upright in bed, pointing at the foot of it. "There," she cried. "She was right there." "Who?" my mom asked. "The nun," Emily whispered, trembling. "She was standing there, with her face covered. She was praying, but the words were wrong." We searched her room top to bottom. Nothing. My dad dismissed it as a nightmare. But Emily wasn't the type to scare easily. She swore she had seen her. That was when we remembered my grandmother's old prayer book. The book was found tucked away in the attic, wrapped in a cloth so old it crumbled when my father unwrapped it. Its leather cover was cracked, the pages yellowed and fragile. The writing inside was in Romanian, the language my grandmother grew up speaking. My mother could read bits of it, enough to know it wasn't a normal prayer book. It was filled with rites, for the dying prayers, meant to guide souls into the afterlife. But some of the passages were strange, distorted, written backward. My father insisted on locking the book in a trunk in the attic. He said if it upset everyone, best to put it away. But that night, things got worse. Doors slammed shut with no explanation. The temperature in certain rooms dropped so suddenly, it was like stepping into a freezer. And every night, at exactly 3:07 a.m., the bells of the church down the road rang once. Just once. We asked the priest about it, but he shook his head. "The bell hasn't worked in years," he told us. The worst came 2 nights later. I was lying in bed, trying to sleep, when I heard the whispers, again this time clearer. The voice was female, chanting. I couldn't understand the words, but the tone was wrong. It was like a prayer, but twisted, reversed. My chest grew heavy, like something was pressing down on me. I sat up and saw it. In the corner of my room stood a figure, tall, dressed in a black habit, a veil covering its face, hands clasped as if in prayer. Its lips moved quickly, whispering in that same guttural reversed language. I froze, my throat dry. When I blinked, it was gone. The next morning, Emily wouldn't come out of her room. She said the nun had been standing closer this time, so close she could see pale, gray fingers peeking out from beneath the sleeves of the habit. We begged my father to get rid of the prayer book, but when he went to the attic, the trunk was open, the cloth scattered, the book was gone. No one admitted to taking it. That night, all of us gathered in the living room, trying to pray together. The lights flickered, the walls shook, as if something massive had struck the house. And then, right before our eyes, the crucifix on the wall turned upside down. Not fast, not by accident, but slowly, deliberately, and she was there again. The veiled woman stood in the corner of the room, her presence suffocating, the air so cold I could see my breath. She prayed louder this time, drowning out our own voices. My father shouted the Lord's Prayer, but the sound was swallowed by her guttural chant. words twisting like snakes. When she finally lifted her head, the veil slipped just enough for us to see. Her mouth wasn't a mouth at all. It was a void, a black, endless chasm that seemed to suck the light from the room. And then, she vanished. After that night, we couldn't sleep. My mother contacted the priest again, begging him to come. He agreed reluctantly, saying he'd bring holy water and prayers. But before he arrived, the final encounter happened. It was past midnight when Emily screamed again. We rushed into her room, and she was standing in the corner, facing the wall, trembling. She turned to us, her eyes wide, and whispered, "She says the rites were never finished. She says one of us has to say them." "What rites?" my mother asked, her voice breaking. Emily pointed to her bed. The prayer book was lying there. The pages were open, the words scrawled across them darker, as though freshly inked. And the passage, it was written backward, the letters twisted and warped. The priest arrived minutes later. He took one look at the book and paled. He wouldn't touch it. He said it wasn't holy, it was a mockery, a perversion. That night, he tried to bless the house, sprinkling holy water and reciting prayers. But every time he said the name of God, the walls shook. Every time he tried to finish a prayer, the veiled woman appeared, closer and closer. And then, at 3:07, the church bell rang once. The lights went out. The last thing I saw before everything went black was the nun standing over Emily's bed, her veil fully lifted this time, and beneath it, there was nothing. No face, no features, just emptiness. When the lights came back, she was gone. The priest left before dawn, shaken and pale. He told us there was nothing more he could do. We never found the prayer book again. It simply vanished. But to this day, every night at 3:07, I wake up, and in the silence of the house, I hear it soft, steady, insistent, the sound of a woman praying backwards.